Allegedly, passengers made phone calls from the hijacked planes to the ground, saying goodbyes to their families and informing them about the details of the hijackers. Immediately after the incidents, these conversations were spread throughout the world, and people shed emotional tears over them. But now, 3 years after the incidents, suspicions are being aroused that these phone calls were lies. These emotional phone calls had been fabricated. On September 11th at 8:42 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93 left Newark Airport. It was proceeding on its journey at 35,000 feet. But 46 minutes after takeoff, Flight 93 was hijacked by the culprits who were on board. Tom Barnett, also on board, made his first call to his wife.
Dina, we've been hijacked. A passenger has been killed. Call someone, get some help. I have to get off the line now.
Tom also phoned his wife again.
We'll all die if we do nothing. There's nothing left but to act.
If such phone conversations actually took place, there should be tapes that recorded the contacts. We tried to obtain those tapes. However, the tapes were regarded as private, in deference to the wishes of the bereaved families, and could not be accessed. It was decided to try the credit card company, as it must have the details of those calls that were made, but all the phone call records had been erased. The company had waived the charge for the calls relating to the incident. There were no longer clues to sort out the matter of in-flight phones.
Americans are good at keeping records. When they erase a phone recording from a plane, especially one that includes valuable information like hijackers being Arabs, it is impossible not to sense a design of some sort.
It is not possible to connect by using cellular phone from a plane. This accusation was made on the internet. The man who made it is Key Dewdney, a professor at the University of Western Ontario. Professor Dewdney conducts scientific investigations into suspicious matters surrounding 9/11.
In this experiment, I would like to actually use cellular phones from the upper airspace. The important point is the altitude.
The professor says he would like to prove that cell phones would not work from altitudes passenger planes fly in. When Tom called his wife, it was 9:29 a.m., and the plane is thought to have been flying at an altitude of 35,000 feet. Can a cell phone be connected from such a height? The cellular phone system used in the experiment in Canada is the one used in the United States. 3 cell phones, each from different telephone companies, were used. Phone calls were made to Professor Dewdney's laboratory with the cell phones.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to
At ground level, receptions are good. We decided to use a small Cessna aircraft for its maneuverability between altitudes. The experiment begins at 1,000 feet. We begin by phoning with Company A's cell phone. Will it work?
Hello?
Hello, I'm calling from cell phone A. 1,000 feet, flight passing training sounds okay?
You're at 1,000?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's a little rougher. It's a little rougher.
Okay, so they make it pretty good on this end?
The phone call got through, but was a little bit difficult to hear. The results were the same with the other 2. Next we went up to 4,000 feet. Then...
No, not on me.
No good. B doesn't work. Company B's phone stopped working at 4,000 feet. And when the aircraft rose to 6,000 feet, Company A's phone also became useless.
A, no service on B, no service on C.
At 8,000 feet, none of the three cell phones worked anymore. In other words, at an altitude of 35,000 feet, cell phones would have been totally useless. Professor Dudney gives the following analysis.
I do not think that the bereaved families that receive phone calls are giving false evidence. If that is so, it is true that they received those calls, but the calls were not from the plane. Something like voice synthesizing technique was used to pretend being a passenger and to phone the family. If you use voice synthesizing technique, it is easy to create anyone's voice.
William Thomas, an ex-Navy person who is also a journalist, says,
the phone calls were made up by the government to make the crash sound like an inspiring story.
Wife again.
We'll all die if we do nothing. There's nothing left but to act.
Several minutes after this, at 10:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93 crashed into rural Pennsylvania. It was announced that this was the result of the passengers having fought the hijackers. The American government praised the brave actions of the passengers and officially commended them as heroes.
We have seen it in the courage of passengers who rushed terrorists to save others on the ground. Passengers like an exceptional man named Todd Beamer. Would you please help me welcome his wife, Lisa Beamer, here tonight.
Bush emphasized the cowardice of terrorist action at every opportunity. Because brave passengers phoned from the plane, Americans firmly believed the information that the hijackers were from the Middle East.
There were about 15 calls from the 4 planes total that were said to be cell phone calls. And many of the calls that were most important for getting the story in the public mind about these hijackers on the planes were said to be cell phone calls.
Usually, by the time you've climbed out to 1,000 feet, you've lost your service signal. That's in a heavy commercial passenger aircraft. So that is the result of far more metal, especially steel in the engines, cutting back the signal and making it impossible. So when that thing gets up to 30,000, I just say, forget it. It can't happen.
And there's general agreement on that. Professor Dudney insists the only conclusion is that the reported 9/11 cell phone calls were faked. Dudney insists it was all concocted by U.S. intelligence to sell the public on hijackings that didn't exist.
From these calls and these calls alone, we have confirmation, quote unquote, that Arab terrorists wearing red bandanas and shouting religious slogans had taken over the aircraft.
You can hear voices that would certainly appear to be fearful, angry.
Right. That's right. It's very easy, of course, to fake a radio message. I can make a radio transmission from anywhere with any kind of sound backdrop, sounds of scuffling. We have control of the plane.
The official story is based on a lie. And thus far, we have been unable to get a single newspaper or magazine or TV station in the United States to report this, which the FBI reported in 2006.